A big part of the intention with this channel is to dive into the questions of how and why the system does what it does. There's enough information available to go into what is going on, the various what's involved with conspiracy theories, systems that keep people down and other people up, systems of mind control, systems designed to maintain sickness and disease, codependency, chaos, fear. All of these systems, and the ones that I haven't even mentioned, are very well discussed on many different channels, on many different levels, and in many different ways. Those perspectives of what are glorified by the system, because that's where all the color is. That's where it's very simple, and that's where the systems of how and why can continue to thrive under the radar of the cloud that is the what, and on a deeper layer of mind control, the who. On the mainstream level, the majority of people are caught up in what certain people are talking about, what certain people believe in, how certain people act, how certain people dress, what certain people think about. This is why Hollywood, the music industry, and athletes and politicians are so glorified in the mainstream, because that layer of mind control maintains a state of simplicity that is very attractive to people who are pretty much forced into submission by fear and ignorance overall. It's easy to emulate, like a child would emulate somebody that they look up to. It's easy for a man child to just copycat their favorite celebrity, their favorite rapper, their favorite actor, their favorite athlete. It's the lowest form of existence to just copycat, because you're not even yourself. You are mimicking something else. And in mimicking that something else, you're losing the biggest part of your reality, which is yourself. And if you have no connections to yourself, you have no connections to that which is beyond yourself, the infinite, the higher intelligence. And this is why something like the cosmology, which exposes a higher intelligence, is such a threat to these systems of simplicity, of chaos, of fear. Those connections, like your connections to the ancestors, open up something deeper, open up something beyond the surface layer connections that you are forced into in many different ways, forced into believing, forced into mimicking, forced into installing into your children as the way to be, as the way to think, as the way to be a part of the status quo. And like I said, since the who consciousness is such a big part of society, being a part of the crowd is the biggest part of what this system sees as success. So if you're outside of the mainstream group think, you're automatically not successful. You're intellectually poor. This is why they treat you as such. When you bring up things like challenging the heliocentric model, challenging the evolution theory that you come from monkeys, challenging the Big Bang, challenging dinosaurs, challenging the stories that the mainstream feels uncomfortable about, challenging chemtrails, challenging the system itself. It's taboo. So in making the challenging of thought taboo, in making your relationship with your ancestors taboo, in making your authentic self not part of the status quo, not believing everything that the system forces you to believe, in that space, the system has designed a program that alters your authentic evolution. And by authentic evolution, I'm not talking about this monkey bullshit coming from the Big Bang and so on and so forth. I'm talking about the evolution that you see from a child to an adolescent to an adult to an elder. There's a natural progression of innocence to wisdom, ignorance to awareness. And it has nothing to do with theories or belief systems that are passed down the line by mind controllers and people who are hell bent on controlling the masses. These are some of the perspectives of reality that our ancestors were very much aware of, which is why they focus so much of their existence, their reality, on maintaining the balances of this reality for the sake of the children 7 generations from now. And on one of the highest levels, that authentic evolution being taboo, being illegal, diving into Western science, politicized religion. These programs keep you from expressing yourself as a God, of God, the higher intelligence. A higher intelligence is taboo. The linear thought of monkey evolution is very much a linear reality at the expense of the nonlinear reality. Coming from a monkey to a human to a Elon Musk is the most simplistic garbage that's out there, but that's the norm. At the expense of the nonlinear, what they call the soul or the spirit, the infinite, the connection to the Most High. This is why mainstream science has such a problem with, they say religion, but it's really, religion is out there to be the buffer between the nonlinear, the spirit, the soul. And they keep it on that level of science is better than religion because religion is easy to beat up on. It's the fall guy. It's the fake fight to keep you from looking at what they're really fighting. Beyond religion is the infinite self, your connection to the Most High, your expression of the Most High, your expression of yourself as a God of the Most High, into the space of power. Maintaining the fight between science and religion maintains the power of science over your infinite self, over even the potential of you empowering yourself to threaten that system. It's taboo for you even to think about threatening this system. This so-called Western intellect keeps you from expressing yourself on a higher level. It keeps you from building upon your ancestral intelligence, where they have developed their cosmology to express this higher intelligence, this higher purpose, this higher meaning, this higher awareness of their reality. This is why the not heliocentric perspective is such a threat. This is why the heliocentric perspective is so destructive because of its limitations, because of its beliefs, because of its ability to lock you in to the entire world that is created on top of that foundation. The people who gave you that foundation, the people who gave you that intelligence. Like science today, scientists today are seen as gods. You cannot even question them. They put science out there as their Bible. But they're not even talking about real science, they're talking about theory. So in many different ways, mainstream science with theory is even more religious than religion. Theories are more religious than shit that comes out of the Bible. Theories are more empty. They don't even have any connection to you, your core. They're more of a fairy tale, a fantasy, than stuff that you read in these religious books for a profit. The Western justice system has made it illegal to even access the door to opening up to a higher awareness. Proof of this is them criminalizing natural plant medicine that elevates your awareness to a higher perspective. Who are you to criminalize nature and decriminalize substances that are far more destructive than these natural plants? They have the ability to do that because they've put themselves on that God level in the minds of the masses. By criminalizing the medicine and the practices of your ancestors, they've criminalized your connection and your relationship to your ancestors. And if they criminalized your connection and your relationship to your ancestors, they're criminalizing your existence in this moment as we speak. That criminalization of those practices is a wall, is a barrier to your authentic evolution, to the raising of your awareness, to the exposing of your ignorance. By criminalizing these medicines, like I said, they don't even want you to get close to the door of a higher awareness, let alone let you walk through that door. You can't even stop to think about it. And in this same place, in this same space of awareness, this world, this modern health, including food and medicine, is designed to maintain sickness and disease. That which is supposed to raise your physical beingness to a higher state is even designed to bring you down. Food and medicine, food is medicine, designed to raise you up, is sold and modified to bring you down. Why? Sickness, disease, leading to codependency, leading to ignorance, leading to lack of movement, leading to weakness. If you're weak, if you're ignorant, there's no chance that you will revolt. You won't even think about it. Intelligence is a weapon. Health is a weapon. Awareness is a weapon. Connection, specifically to your ancestors, is a weapon, especially to people and systems designed to keep you from challenging these systems. In that world of health, food, and medicine, they even double down with the psychological disease inflicted by the vegan agenda and the meat-eating shamers. With that reality, not only demonizing your ancestors as primitive, savage meat eaters who had no connection to a higher being because they ate meat. How could they be evolved people? They ate meat, generating that ridiculous ego from something as simple as just, what? You just don't eat meat. Now you're awakened, you're evolved. Get the fuck out of here. But also mobilizing this team of holier than thou vegans that are out there based on emotion. This very much taps into and is connected to the domestication of animals, specifically cats and dogs, creating this holier than thou perspective within the vegan agenda, creating these artificial levels of elevation, like the climate change agenda out there, this artificial level of evolved thought. We have to take care of the earth. We have to protect the earth. Meanwhile, completely ignoring the connections that they have to the destruction of certain parts of this system that we live within. Proof of this, there's so many different proofs out there, but the same people who are running these oil companies, they're all behind these so-called green energy companies. The companies who are a part of the oil industry are the same ones who own the solar industry. It's the same system. They're just telling different stories to make you believe different things. So if that is the case, that alone is the proof that it's not about them doing good for you. It's about the story behind you believing that they're doing good for you. It's about how they look, their power, how you feel about them. And for the vegans and the non-meat eaters out there, this is not, don't turn on the victim mode out here now, because that's a big part of that program. I don't give a shit what you eat. I don't care. That's the difference. Part of that agenda is to inflict that shame and guilt upon you when, on the other hand, we don't think that way about it. We don't care. But that holier than thou perspective needs that shame, needs that guilt, because it can't stand on its own. And that is the infrastructure within all of these systems, the vegan agenda, the new age agenda, the climate change agenda. They inflict this guilt, inflict this shame to invoke this holier than thou perspective. This is what the mainstream media, the Western system, does. It guilts you for being a descendant of your ancestors. They are more evolved with their technology, their science, their religion, their education, their intellect. And you should feel guilty and shameful for not being like them. And you should strive to want to be like them, to want to be a part of that system. And this is what your celebrities, your athletes, your musicians, This is what they are all designed to do. This is what the money funneled into those individuals is designed to do, and which is why they are designed to keep their mouth shut. Across the board, transcending race, silence is more destructive than anything else that they have to say, because they're allowing these systems to continue to grow and evolve at the expense of the masses of people. And it's the pride in these systems, it's the pride in the system overall that is keeping these foundations afloat, that is keeping this system growing year after year, generation after generation. Their pride in the system that has come about as a result of their crimes, including genocide, rape, theft, and murder, inhibits mass-scale justice. They're proud of the system by any means necessary. They don't care. They've done what they've done. They're even if you say anything about it, something is wrong with you, because they know that that point, that perspective is a threat to their power. They profit from the blood and the bones, from the genocide and the rape, the destroying of the land and the resources. It's the doubling and tripling down. They don't do that. They can't sell you the first layer. They're 3 and 4 layers up, selling you pride on top of death and destruction, crime and ignorance. The push to destroy your ancestral lineage, balance, and intelligence to replace it with this watered down milquetoast brand of we're all human is breaking down the complexities of even personal relationships. The people are becoming stale. Relationships are becoming stale. And their kids are born stale. This is why all these chemicals that they're installing into these children, this is what they're designed to do. Non-player characters are becoming the norm on purpose. This is why even their new age systems and beliefs are counterproductive to the larger picture, on purpose. Your interpretation of the entire universe has to be clouded by unknowns, chaos, and fear. In order to maintain their illusion of power, they have to criminalize and imprison those who are the biggest threat to their system. Like a narcissist gaslights and blame shifts into their victims, the system imprisons so many people to hide their own criminal behavior, to hide the criminal behavior of the people that we believe are in power today. They have to imprison the original people of this land. This is why the biggest prison system is in the pinnacle of this Western so-called civilization. Because whether they are ignorant or not, just their very existence is a threat to this system. Put them in jail. Generate systems designed to put them in jail. Put them in psychological jail. If you can't psychologically imprison them, put them in physical jail. Put them in a chemical jail. Criminalize their medicine. Criminalize their religion. Criminalize their relationships. Bring them down so we can feel up. So we can appear as higher than the Most High. And for the rest of the people, just maintain the chaos. This is why they have all these alternate systems and beliefs that are out there. Trans this and alt that. This is not a universal thing. It's not to say that there aren't like gay and bisexual people around the world. It's just the politicizing and the universalizing of these systems is very central to a Western mindset. Your LGBTQ communities, your Key West and your Castro Street, your San Francisco, very comparable to your New Age communities, are heavily Eurocentric. This is not a universal thing. This is very specific to a certain demographic of people. And it's the same demographic of people who are behind the systems that are profiting off of everything involving and surrounding the system of racism and white supremacy. When you think of racism, you're not thinking of the 9/10 of the people around the world committing racism. You're thinking about a specific group of people committing racism, colonizing, genociding, poisoning, raping, murdering. That's what you're thinking about. This is why they have to push this whole idea of, well, what about black on black crime? What about reverse racism? To hide the origination of these systems. So just like that system, this is very central to a very specific group of people. I'm not saying that it's all on their backs. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that one cannot look the other way when observing this reality. There obviously is the boule out there that is a big part of ushering these beliefs, ushering these mind controls into the reality. But they work hand in hand. One group creates the foundation, the community. The other group, the boule specifically, is what pushes it into the mainstream. This is why in your LGBTQ, in your trans community specifically, when you look at trans women, and this is a known, they even know this, they're emulating so-called black women. Why? Because there's a natural power there. They want to seem extra real, extra feminine. So they mimic. No different than a gay man acting extra feminine. And to hide that any of these systems exist, they have to overcompensate. Just like I was saying in the systems with the trans women and the gay men, one has to act extra womanly, the other one has to act extra like a woman. Well, when your ancestors are standing on the blood and the bones of the people of so many stories that exist out there, and you are obviously profiting from those systems, what is your overcompensation? You have to be extra nice. This is why they have this mainstream concept sold through largely the system of racism and white supremacy, but this identity of being super duper nice. White people are the nicest people you could ever imagine. But that niceness is weaponized. It has a purpose. It's to get in close to you, to take over. And you can easily trace this back to clinical narcissism, having nothing holding them back from going as far as they can go to push them to the top. The lack of empathy to realize that what they're doing is the worst of the worst. In this example, this so-called white niceness, it's not a character trait. They put it on the mainstream media with your actors, with your musicians, more specifically with your newscasters. This is why those newscasters talk like that. They have to speak in such a way that makes you believe that they are telling the truth, that they are the authority of intelligence and the news that you should believe in. Trust us, it's a fucking preacher. They have adopted this preacher, pastor sort of expression as a character trait. When people say they're speaking white, what do you think of when you see it? They think they've taken over this identity of intelligence. And the backhanded belief is when somebody says, stop talking white, what does it mean when you're talking black? If that means you're intelligent, then the other means you're ignorant, dumb. Even deeper than that, a criminal. So this white niceness is more of a weapon than a character trait. In fact, it's not a character trait at all. It's an illusory character trait. If that's a character trait, then being rich means you're happy. Then having a lot of money means you're successful. Then being famous means you're fulfilled in life. No, it's an illusion for a purpose. The character traits, largely, of so-called white people is of the same vibration of the mainstream media. The intention of the mainstream media is interwoven within the character traits of so-called white people. Like I said, whiteness does not exist, just like the mainstream does not exist. But you know what we mean when we say and reference white, when we reference mainstream. But in reality, it doesn't exist. It's like a theory. So this idea of whiteness, part of this is the privilege that comes from that. It's designed to hide. It's built on top of the foundation of crimes, of violence, and on a deeper level, to inflict upon the world an illusion of genetic dominance by this illusory intelligence, this illusory niceness. Like I said earlier, if they believe they're for monkeys and they imprison us because of our violent behavior, because of our lack of an ability to be successful in their world, they are the more evolved monkeys because of how intelligent they are, how nice they are compared to our criminal behavior, because all of our people are in jail and on welfare. This is all a design. It's all smoke and mirrors designed to hide the truth of what's really going on. This was all for a purpose. They invented narcissism, or at least the universalizing of narcissism, colonialism, the mainstream media. They invented heliocentrism. They perfected genocide. They invented racism, white supremacy. They perfected this passive aggressiveness with their illusory niceness. Like I said earlier, they domesticated these animals for a purpose, for many different purposes. De-evolving your relationship with evolution. This is why they now are putting out this atmosphere that your dogs are your kids. It de-evolves the raising of your children and the status of your parenting skills. There's no expectations from a parent when all they have to do is raise a dog, but you have this illusion of raising a child when the whole atmosphere is that an animal is a child. This whole domesticating of the animals thing also creates this sense of niceness at the same time. Oh, we don't treat animals like these third world countries treat animals. We invite them into our house. We're more of a universal human. The domesticating of animals is just like the giving a shit about climate change. It's an illusion to make you feel a certain way. They invented these chemtrails for many different purposes, perfected blame shifting. I was driving on the bridge the other day and I saw these signs that they have, these Amber Alert signs. They use them for Amber Alerts, but they also do say other shit like don't drink and drive. But the last one I saw was this one talking about we're in this crazy drought right now, so do whatever you can to maintain the water levels and all this other shit. They're saying this. Meanwhile, the people that they are working with, these Nestle companies, are sucking the water right out of they're the ones responsible for this drought for the most part. All their golf courses, their opulent living lifestyles are the ones sucking the life out of the earth, creating this drought. But they blame shift and put it all on you. Same way when they talk about welfare and shit. Oh, when you say the word or think about welfare, what do you think about? You see a picture, you see a family, you see a complexion. But what you don't see is that these welfare systems, in reality, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's very similar to this. Of all the welfare programs dedicated specifically to inner cities and individual people like that, you're looking at something like $10 million. It's probably more, probably less, I don't know, a year. But when you compare it to the welfare programs on a larger scale, these welfare companies, corporations, billionaires and millionaires, they're spending billions and billions of dollars of government money. So they're guilting and shaming you and putting you on posters as a welfare child for your little piddly millions, while they're in the background funneling billions into their welfare bank accounts. This is how that blame shifting works. They have control of the power to distribute information. And when they put that out there, when they put those pictures of those people and those families on those posters, they're creating an atmosphere. They're generating a world to hate you. So you have the middle class so-called white people hating you even more. Why? Because their tax dollars is paying for your food stamps. No, you fucking idiot. You're being conditioned to think that. Your fucking little piddly ass tax dollars are paying these billionaire corporations to suck the life force of this fucking water out of the earth in the middle of this drought. But when they get in your face, they're the nicest people in the world. Oh, we're nice when you... Fuck out of here. Anything to make them look nice. That's why they have all these ASPCA commercials on all the time. Let's save the dogs. Let's save the climate change. Let's save this, save that. They're the superheroes of the world. And when all that illusion, when all those pedestals are built underneath these people who don't have anything, they didn't build it. They're sitting on top of this privilege and this pedestal for no reason. They don't know how they got there. They're kept ignorant of that, which is what maintains that system. In that ignorance, it creates this arrogance, this ego, and this sense of entitlement and ownership. This is why you have so-called white South Africans having a sense of ownership and entitlement over the whole country of South Africa. Where the fuck did that? How is that even a thing? And when you think about it, it's the same exact storyline of so-called white people in the United States. And they take it a step even further. They call themselves Americans, completely avoiding the actual nature of Central and South America. They not only made themselves the main people of the United States, they made themselves the main people of the entire continent, all of the Americas. When you go to another country and you say American, you're thinking white. White Americans are no more American than white South Africans are African. Let me say that again. White Americans are no more American than white South Africans are African. They are not African. They are not American. This is why I was saying in relation to that pride versus accountability. Until the Western mindset of pride shifts to accountability, nothing's going to change. Right now, they're proud Americans. They're proud South Africans. And that pride is clouding them from being accountable for the actions of their ancestors. And until that changes, nothing is going to change. And this doesn't mean feel guilty or feel shameful or none of that. No. This just means deal with the fucking reality. Because if Filipinos mutilated millions, colonized and committed genocide in Europe, and took ownership over Switzerland, would people be wrong for wanting them to take responsibility for their actions and give the land and the resources back to the original people? No. So why is this not the case in South Africa and the United States? If the roles were reversed and it wasn't the nicest fucking people in the world committing all these crimes and genocide and murder and rape, all this shit, if it wasn't them, it'd be more obvious. This is a proof of that mind control and how deep it really goes. And with that niceness, that artificial niceness, that artificial intelligence, that artificial evolved version of the human, comes these so-called movements. Now they've generated this leadership look and appearance. Now they can create movements and infiltrate other movements that threaten their power. This is what these woke systems were glorified to do. They were glorified to do what the feminism movement did to the Black Power movement. They had the power over the mainstream media, over how people communicate with each other. So they said, these are the two same things. Feminism is the same as Black Power. This is what they're doing with the LGBTQ stuff right now. LGBTQ rights are the same as Black Power rights. In fact, they're more important. This is why they put the LGBTQ Pride Month, all that shit, in the same month that they had Juneteenth, to cover it up, to cloud it over, to wash it out. Same reason why they put your so-called Black History Month in the shortest month of the year, and put the Black History Month in the same month as all the president's days and all that other shit, to cloud you out. It's to water it down, water down all the movements, and distract from the relevant movements, distract from the movements that are actually going to challenge and threaten this system. And when you have these movements out there, these artificial movements, you're going to have artificial people out there. And when you have these artificial people out there, you can focus on the idiocracy of these half-informed, misinformed, uninformed people. This is what these woke movements are. Only talking about half of the story at best. And that half of the story is what actually empowers the system. If you only know half the story, then you're not going to know enough of the information to empower yourself. And if you can't empower yourself, you're not a threat to this system. And if you're not a threat to this system, when you're out there speaking against this system, you're only going to be presenting an argument that's going to empower this system, because you're putting yourself below this system instead of challenging the system. And these half and misinformed people that are out there calling themselves woke are going to ask for things from the system that is not going to be relevant to the bigger, more important movements that are out there, of people who are more informed. But they're just not televised. They're not put on the platform. This is what the controlling of all the internet information is about. This is what all the censorship is about. They censor certain information on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, because not only because it's a threat, but because they want to glorify the information that is not a threat, that pushes their agenda forward. So any of the information that you're seeing that is pushed by the internet, by the algorithms, claiming to be a threat to the system is not a threat. All these conspiracy theory channels that are out there that are having billions and millions of views and likes and all this other stuff, that's what they want you to know. That's what they want you to talk about, because they have a contingency plan that's going to use that information to move forward, move the system forward. This is what your Netflix algorithm is. You see all these documentaries talking about all this woke information on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, your new age channels on Amazon Prime talking about all the aliens, the good aliens and the bad aliens and the ancient aliens who built the pyramids and all that other shit. They want you to see that. They're going to use that. And then they use their little talking heads like Joe Rogan and all his little copycats that are out there with their podcasts and the Russell Brands. They use them to make it more real, to make it more personal. Like, oh, this is a regular, everyday, average Joe just talking about, stuff that we all need to be knowing about. It's a very complex, at the same time, simple program. It's complex in the infrastructure, in the undertones, but it has to be made simple for people to follow through with the programs and push the programs into a deeper layer of existence, evolution. So like I said, when they put these woke movements and woke people out there, they connect them with all these other movements to, when they attack these wokesters, which is very easy because they're still ignorant as hell. When they attack them, they bring everything down. All the movements come down. When you attack one group of conspiracy theorists, all the conspiracy theories come down. When you attack one perspective in the woke community, all the perspectives involving consciousness and the systems that are designed to go against the masses of people and against the ancestors and against everything, all of them get discredited. This is why they have them out there. And then when you're in that space of not being able to move anywhere because even your most evolved perspectives can't go anywhere, that's when they hit you with people like Bill Maher, who are talking about the lesser of two evils.
And Juneteenth is now a federal holiday and the first black woman to the Supreme Court. No good?
No,
None of it?
those
Let's be honest and candid and say we're living in the real world. Nobody gets everything. You're such an absolutist. But they're going to lose even worse. It's just going to elect a Republican. So this is the world that we live in. People do have to make compromise.
Basically just telling him to shut the fuck up, take your Biden because it's not a Trump, and move forward. And that's that punking, that's that arrogance, that's that so-called evolved intellect that they're pushing onto the masses of people. They can do that because of the beliefs that people have in their systems, in their infrastructure. They can just be arrogant pieces of shit like Bill Maher or Joe Rogan and just tell you that you have no legs to stand on because you don't think like them. And these programs, these Bill Maher TV shows and these Joe Rogan podcasts, they put these people on there to kill your movement, to kill your internal movement. Because you're thinking, well, shit, if somebody like Cornel West, somebody as intelligent as him, he even brought this up on that show. If he can't even do anything, well, there's no hope for anybody. They're paid to go up there and take the hit, take the fall. Yeah, step up on this platform, step up to the plate. Let me strike you out real quick so you can just go sit in the dugout and make everybody else sit in the dugout, not even want to step up to the plate. Be the fall guy so everybody else will shut the fuck up. They won't even have the desire to educate themselves any more than that because they're hopeless. They're helpless. They're not going to be as smart as somebody like Cornel West. So if they're not going to be that smart and he can't do anything, when he's on that kind of platform with that kind of power, then what can you do? Nothing. So sit your ass down, go back to your 9 to 5, teach your kids to do the same thing you're doing, and move on. Keep paying into the system because that's the only thing you can do. And not only that, be proud of this system and teach your future generations, teach your kids to be proud of this system. And if you don't, you'll be criminalized. So just like in that comparison, you have the woke followers who are portrayed as ignorant, portrayed as off the path. And what that does is that holds the mainstream perspective on a pedestal while demonizing anybody who thinks differently. And what this does is it mobilizes the lesser of two evils as the norm, empowering a new form of Democrats versus Republicans. Extreme new Democrats, wokesters versus rational thinkers versus new Republicans, extreme bigots. So once the dual program runs out of steam, they install this trilateral program to control the masses. So you have your super extreme wokesters, your super progressives that are out there that are telling you about all these extreme alternate lifestyles and there's no genders, there's no nothing. Extreme progressive everything, which is just unbelievable on so many different levels. So extreme on the progressive side, then you televise the so extreme on the bigoted side, extreme Democrats, extreme Republicans. And what does that do? It creates this middle ground, which is the same program that it was before, but it creates and empowers this middle ground of so-called rational thinkers. And this is what your Bill Maher and your Joe Rogans and even your Russell Brands, this is where they fit to control that level, that middle ground. It was easy when they just had the newspaper and the radio and the TV to control people with just Democrats versus Republicans. But once you get the internet out there, you get people thinking more. There's more information out there. So you have to create a more complex version of control. You have to move from the 2 to the 3. Demonize both extremes, and you play the middle. And that's where we are now. And in that middle ground, they can throw any of your information into either side. People who are talking about so-called black consciousness, people who are talking about taking our land back, creating our own systems, separating from the systems and the individuals who are leeching off of our existence, literally killing our people. Those mindsets get thrown into the extreme bigoted with the KKK and so on and so forth. People who are talking about higher thinking, challenging cosmology, consciousness in general, they get thrown into the super progressive new age world of thinking. And then once again, the majority of people fall somewhere in the middle. And until these programs are seen for what they are, these systems are just going to continue to grow. You're going to have people like Joe Rogan talking about the stoned ape theory. You have Elon Musk talking about colonizing Mars. You're going to have Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about the multiverse and how Doctor Strange was actually right and all this other shit that's out there. Catering to the child mind of the mass consciousness and de-evolving your reality under the guise of evolution.